futuristic. I don't know if that's a light behind you or a
Okay.
laser beam. I don't know.
It's
Could
both.
be. It's both. Amazon. Thank you. It's
The future of music.
The future of music. The future of music.
The future of music.
The future of music.
The Future of Music podcast.
Hey there, and welcome once again to the Future of Music podcast. I am Ryan Withrow, and I have my host over here looking very futuristic. I don't know if that's a light behind you or a laser beam. I don't know.
It's
Could
both.
be. It's both. Amazon. Thank you. It's Jonathan Boyd over there. Jonathan, it's good to see you as always, my friend. And I am a little freaked out, but excited as well at the topics that we're covering today. And there's obviously a key reason that we do this podcast. And this is kind of like full integration, everything coming together at this point. But they don't know what to expect. So that's my way of being like, I know what's coming. Why should they be excited about what's happening here on the podcast today? What do they have to look forward to?
So I think this one's going to be kind of like going right to the edge and hopefully not falling over, right? So today's actually going to be part one of a short series that we're going to do based on the fact that AmericanSongwriter.com actually asked AI itself for what it thinks the top predictions are about the future of the music industry. So we're going to talk about the top 7. Today we're going to talk about the top 3. And we're going to talk about, of course, what those are, how accurate do we think they are, and what do we actually think will happen based on those. So I'm really excited to dive in.
Good. Yeah. Let's see if the computer beats me or not. Speaking of the computer, you're on it. Maybe click subscribe if you're on it. That was the worst segue, but I tried. I tried to figure it out. All right, I'm running out, man. We're going on a lot of episodes here. I only have so many, so just maybe if you subscribe, I wouldn't have to worry about mentioning it at all. So
give us some more ideas. Give Ryan more ideas.
Yeah. And let me know better segues. But like, subscribe, share. Make sure you follow. And I saw quite a few reviews coming in on the podcast platforms. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. And obviously, it helps us out in the long run of continuing this thing and growing it. So we'd love to do so. And we thank you for being on the ride here. But you mentioned exactly what we're talking about. I mean, AmericanSongwriter.com, really well known, especially for music industry knowledge and blogs and content. But they sat down one day and thought of something I'm surprised we didn't think about. It was, let's ask AI, not what it thinks the future of AI music is or anything. No, let's just stay focused on one thing, and that's the music industry. Not the music industry is according to like artificial intelligence being a part of it, but just as we know, the music industry that we've talked about in so many podcast episodes here so far. What do you predict is going to happen, AI? What do you think is going down? So again, you mentioned we're going to be doing part 1. There were 7 responses from AI. We're going to cover 3 today. Let's just kind of dive into that. Let's kind of go for it. The first one that AI came through with is a continued fusion of genres. So this is the idea of genres becoming integrated. The literal response from AI, by the way, I have all of them here. This is an AI saying what it is. Genres will likely continue to blend and evolve as artists experiment with new sounds and styles. Hybrid genres like hip hop and pop, electronic rock, and R&B indie have gained popularity in recent years and may continue to do so. I mean, obviously, I agree. And I think it's for the better. We're seeing this like every single day of our lives as we continue. So this isn't like scary to me or anything, but I see it daily. But John, what do you think?
I think it's kind of a sandbagging response from the AI, to be honest, for the first one. It's kind of like, well, people are going to keep playing music. I mean, there's that. So I think it's kind of a throwaway, to be honest. Of course, there's going to be continued fusion of genres because people run out of ideas and they need to get new ideas. Where do they get them from? Other genres.
Yeah, and I think you'll notice that some of these pepper in some potential statements that are like, oh, I wish that would have had elaboration. But some of them are me just being that guy, cynical in the background going, what isn't it telling us publicly? What is going on in the background here? Another one that, again, we talk about all the time on here is the integration of technology. So,
Mhm.
advancements in technology will undoubtedly impact music production and performance. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, and other innovations may play a more significant role in the creation and consumption of music. So, this is our first intro into what we've been talking about and assuming
Mhm.
ourselves and predicting ourselves. Interesting to see an AI say the same exact thing, really in the same order that we say it as well. What are your thoughts?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I agree. We can clearly see that, and that's one of the reasons why we even started this podcast, right? Why
Mhm.
we're talking about it, because that's what we're seeing, and we're talking about, well, where is it going to go after this? I mean, as technology advances, I talked about this on a previous episodes, but humans are always economizing, meaning they're always choosing the thing that involves the least input of time, effort, resources, whatever, and gives them the highest output. As technology evolves, it allows them to, and this has happened throughout history in any industry, but it allows them to have less input or less like less resources, less time, less all the things that require effort, right, and energy, and then get a better output from it. So of course humans are going to continue to adopt new technology, and we're just talking about the industry of music, specifically in this case, creating and consuming music. So on the creation side, that's obvious. I think that anybody who's been paying attention for the last 10 years clearly sees that there are more things like virtual instruments, like we previously talked about things like neural DSP and some of these amp modelers, guitar amp modelers. We've also seen the rise of, let's say, a Pro Tools, versus mixing on a mixing board. So we're starting to see these kind of things. And nowadays, the idea of AI music is just exploding. So maybe you click a few buttons and it outputs some music, etc. Whether it's good or not yet doesn't really matter. But we're clearly seeing it on the creation side. Now, what I'm interested to hear your thoughts on is not only that, but the consumption of music. How do you see the new technology affecting the consumption of music?
I think we're already seeing it, honestly, and it'll just continue to be pushed into that vertical. So it mentions specifically virtual reality, augmented reality, and we've talked a lot about that. And I guess we've never talked about it in the framing of consumption of music. We've
Mm-hmm.
always spoken about we could use VR, AR to go in and play and learn music and write music,
Mm-hmm.
but that kind of subconscious thing that's happening that we don't even think about until it's posted right in front of me is the way I'm consuming music when I'm playing VR. Examples, simple examples are when I go play, Top Golf with my brother-in-law and my friend once a week in the Oculus. Right in front of me is a YouTube playlist, right?
Hmm.
And in the VR, I could go in, I could hit a playlist, it can recommend stuff for me, and I'm consuming music as I'm playing games in a virtual environment. I'm able to click a button in that as well and share the entire playlist with everybody in the game. And they're able to listen to the same exact songs at the same time as me, even though we're 1,400 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at the first point is this idea of consumption in a community aspect, but also this angle of music being integrated in the world of VR, AR, just as much
Mm-hmm.
as it is our speakers on our desk every single day or in our headphones, and using it as a way to amplify or extend the gameplay or the experience in VR and AR as well. So I would say that's one of the big things that I see more of as we're continuing. But when I think of consumption outside of AR, VR, I think that there are innovations happening right now. I see a lot of innovations with things like Spotify,
Yep.
SoundCloud. They're all buying AI technology. And I think Spotify just solidified a deal last week for more AI technology and investments for better algorithms with AI to present better listening
Mm-hmm.
experiences to people on the platforms. So consumption goes all over the place. Like, where are you consuming it? And then how is the technology helping you consume what you want out of that? I feel like that's what we're seeing right now and we'll continue seeing.
Yeah.
Who knows when the brain implant goes in and I start to
Next week.
it just starts playing music for me and that's how it's consumed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that those are the really big pieces. I love the VR AR side. We talked about in a previous episode deep focused music and all of that. There are
Mhm.
apps out there like Trip, TRIPP, that is just dedicated to you sitting in a chair doing short focus games for meditation with certain frequencies in your ears to really help you focus and be more present in meditation. It's endless, I guess, is the long rant to come to. I think that there are an endless amount of ways that we can integrate it.
Yeah, I also think too, just before we move on to the next point, I think most people don't really actually realize that we've already been listening to, quote, AI's influence on music for a long time now with things like Pandora and Spotify. Even just their AI version of, choosing music for you. How do they do that? Well, they actually have algorithms that do that for you. So technically, that is artificial intelligence.
And you probably feel that if you use those apps enough, like me. I'm always on Spotify every morning at the gym and then doing podcast listening, and I'm on Audible. But when I'm on Spotify, I can't tell you how many times I just like select a random playlist that they're like, you might like it. And by the end of that 1 hour gym session, I have followed 6 additional bands that I had never heard of before. And it starts to be like, man, they know me. They know me really well. So yeah, I think that's going to continue, obviously. But when we talk about artists, let's move over to the idea of artists. It's predicting what we have said a lot as well, the rise of independent artists. So
Hmm.
it specifically said, and this is like low blow to music industry here, the internet has democratized music distribution. Oof. Allowing independent artists to reach a global audience without the need for traditional record labels. This trend is likely to continue, giving rise to more diverse voices and sounds. We've said that a million times over, and I think
Yep.
we've covered multiple articles about this topic, and I think we all see it. Anybody that's following any new artists, you're seeing it on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is something that we've talked about a lot, and it's really interesting to see that this quote AI's responses are basically the things that we have already been talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of the part of the goal of this podcast is to help you see around the corner, right, for what's actually happening, and this is confirming what we've been talking about, especially with artists. And most people, when it comes to business, to put things really, really simply, let's say you have to have a product or a service that somebody will buy and exchange money for. But the second part of that is you have to have a distribution network. You have to have some way for people to either know about it or buy it or whatever. And in terms of music, historically, that's been, putting music in stores, on the radio, putting it out there for the masses to consume, if you will, or at least be aware of. And historically, record companies have been the distribution center. That's kind of one of the roles that they play. And what the AI is saying here is that the need for distribution by a third party with a lot of resources like money for radio advertising, getting CDs in stores and things like that, that's not necessary now, or it's becoming less and less necessary. So that means that the middleman is essentially being cut out, and the actual artists themselves, if they use these tools that we talk about on this podcast, now they're in the driver's seat. So they pretty much have almost full control over the future of their own career.
And I see a lot of conversation happening with this whole topic as well. I'm sure everybody would associate me with listening to Snoop Dogg, but I'm into Biggie, I'm into Tupac, I'm into Snoop. But Snoop Dogg came out and he was in an interview, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and he was just like getting interviewed by publicists and people about a movie that he's doing, and he just went on this tangent, and it was like a powerful, moving tangent. I'll make sure to find it and link it in here. But it was all about him coming out and being like, hey, you're all people here. You all have microphones here. You all know people. I would really like to know right now how an artist can get 1 million streams and not make $1 million. Like, where are we at right now that I can have 1 billion streams and not make $1 million? Like, it's not
Mhm.
adding up. Where's the money? How do you expect artists to thrive and continue making music when we're at this point when I'm with a record label or I'm on streaming and I could have 1 billion downloads and I'm making $0 essentially? So it's something that is frequently talked about and really, really a huge controversy with all the people that have been coming up from the previous model So people like Snoop Dogg and all of those people that have been around since the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and they made their whole life in this idea of being a musician and being on a record label. And now they're seeing that they're doing the same work, if not better work, and they're paid so poorly for it. And they're just wondering why. Like, how have we not fixed this today at this point? How have we not solved this problem? And I think all of that just scares all of the potential artists away, would scare me away. Absolutely. As you're seeing this and a record label approaches you like, come on board. It's not like they have a good selling point anymore. And we heard from Barenth. I've heard from a lot of other musicians out there that even something as simple as the album as we know it is dead. Like, you don't sell albums anymore. You only do singles because albums just flop. But singles are easy to release one, see how it goes. And the next song you do, you can learn from your mistakes and critique and try to have a better performing one. So all of this is just constantly going on. So, obviously we've talked about this a lot. We agree that the standard way, the old school way just doesn't work anymore. And we need to really adapt and make sure that we're incentivizing in the right ways, whatever that might be. It might not be monetarily, it might be in value exchange or time as well. So how can we start to understand how to do that for artists? But it really will give a rise to independent artists who are just sitting in their desk like me and writing stuff in their DAW and using virtual instruments. And they're just like, yeah, I'll do this on my weekend and I'll post it and we'll see what happens. I don't have to worry about demanding or having a demanding record label. I'll see what happens. The majority of people I listen to now, I would say 80% are independent artists. And it's way easier to support them. And, it's good to have that connection. You don't have that middleman. But I agree with the AI here, which don't quote me.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say the same thing. I don't think there's much more we can say about it. I mean, we've dug into these topics in individual episodes. So for now, I think the AI is 3 for 3, and let's see what they have to say on the next one.
Yeah. Speaking of the next one, to see it, subscribe. That one was better. That one was better. That one
Not
works.
bad.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe, but you got to click. I think there's a bell. I don't know at this point. There's always like you click like,
There's something.
subscribe, bell, share.
There's hearts sometimes,
social
I think.
security number.
Yeah. Definitely that one.
Yeah.
Enter it twice to confirm.
Route and time you used to drive to work. I don't know.
Bank account number.
Yeah. You need all of those things. And then you will see all of our episodes as they're released. So
yes,
we
are Nigerian princes as well.
Yes, absolutely. But I've got an issue. My money, it's held up. It's held up right now. But anyway, good to chat with you as always, John. Again, like you mentioned, we're going to do episode 2 where we go into the remaining 4, which I think are going to be really, really interesting ones. Obviously, I saved the best for last. So make sure you follow, make sure you check us out then. And until then, we will see you on part 2 on the Future of Music podcast.